This may well be one of the stranger and least expected phrases in recent memory, that Rand Paul and Barack Obama have something in common and something they can apparently agree upon. However, and there is a caveat, one can wager either man would admit it, and neither man would be thrilled to hear us talking about it. Let us uncover the it we speak of here as we welcome back to MidPoint from D.C. International Advisory and former senior advisor to the U.S. State Department, Whiton joins us. Chris, always good to see you.
Great to be here, thanks.
You wrote this and I had to pause because, as I said, this is something I never thought I would see in print. Barack Obama and Rand Paul have much in common, including the same foreign policy. Mr. Whiton, please explain.
Well, I think if you look at any of the crises around the world today, but the two biggest ones, I'd say, the war we're fighting against ISIS and our problems with Vladimir Putin and a resurgent Russia, if you look, Rand Paul, the reputed conservative, is on the same page as Obama. You know, when it comes to Russia, Rand Paul thinks that Russia is acting the way it's acting because we, quote unquote, tweaked them, which is sort of a fundamental part of Obama and Hillary's reset with Russia. This notion that really we just have some sort of misunderstanding and it's probably America's fault as much as it is Russia's fault, and we can just patch it over with diplomacy, when in fact there's a fundamental difference of interest there. And then on ISIS, you know, Rand Paul basically said on the Senate floor that U.S. intervention created ISIS, not this Islamist movement that's been gaining steam for decades, but something the United States did, and basically has the same warmed over isolationist approach of responding, where we will respond, but it will be a very meek, mild, and unclear response.
Isn't it fair to say that if Rand Paul, and again, I'm just guessing here, wants to be taken as a serious presidential candidate, he is going to have to come off this playing of the middle here? Because as you point out, what are you going to do? Well, get congressional approval. It's not what we ask, Senator. What would you want to do? And he still has not gotten to the point. And I think the American people want to hear his answer.
That's right. You know, in this, we're creating a vacuum in Syria. That's okay. That's what we want to do. We want to push aside ISIS. And it's clear Obama and everyone agree that we want ISIS to lose. But Obama and Rand can't explain who they want to win. I think the answer is simple enough. It's become a lot harder in 3.5 years of war, almost 4 years of war, and 200,000 people dead. We want secular moderates to win, and they may be few in number, but they are there. Defectors, in particular, from Assad's army, non-Islamist, non-jihadist members of the Free Syrian Army. But Rand Paul can't come around to saying we should support those people, provide them with arms training in a serious way that we haven't, because then it starts to irritate his more isolationist-leaning supporters, and that's the block he has to monopolize. In fact, is counting on monopolizing to have a shot at the 2016 Republican nomination.
There's also a thinking here, too, that the airstrikes that we're undergoing right now are actually helping Assad. But then again, Christian, don't we have to do something? I mean, the only other alternative would be don't do the airstrikes. And at that point, we are simply not doing anything against the terrorist threat itself.
Right, we do have to do something. This is a serious threat, and these people are more interested in exporting jihad to America than, frankly, the Taliban ever was. You know, what comes after the current fight? And that was something that Obama and, frankly, Rand Paul criticized George W. Bush for supposedly not addressing in Iraq. Well, here is their chance. What do we want to come after the war in Syria and this disintegration of Iraq? I think the answer is pretty simple. We should want secular states, ideally things that can evolve into democracy. But, you know, if we have to make deals, if we have to support people who aren't Boy Scouts, then so be it. The problem Rand runs, of course, is with all of his moderations, with his revelations, and you've seen a lot. You know, go back a couple of years, and you had Rand Paul as a candidate or as a future candidate saying things like Social Security is a Ponzi scheme or Medicare is socialism. So he's trying to cover his tracks, but in so doing, he looks like a flip-flopper.
He is going to have to get off that sooner or later. 10 seconds. Fair to say that a lot of our allies overseas and a lot of people are watching us and still don't think we know what we're doing?
That's right. And Arab governments would be willing to do more, but they are afraid we're actually helping Assad, who's just as bad geopolitically as the terrorists. So we need a clear strategy and just an explanation of who we want to win.
Wow, clear strategy. I never thought I'd hear those words. No, those words I did think I would hear in the same sentence here. Christian, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks.
All right, and when we come back, it is time to look a little bit further into what we're doing right now with regard to these airstrikes, many of which might actually be more symbolic than strategic. That and so much more coming up right here on MidPoint.